Hello neighbor, I'm Robert Burns and welcome back to yet another edition of Sound Off Louisiana. And I guess you could say we're taking a break from our usual scheduled programming of exposing LSP corruption because the blog has certainly been dominated by that, and it will continue to have quite a few features in that regard. But many of you may recognize the gentleman seated to my right here, Mr. Billy Broussard, and I will tell you that we have come full circle because it was some years ago that at this very place we did our first feature on Billy Broussard, and we will give you links for all of the features with regard to Mr. Broussard. But for all of our new viewers, I'm just going to do a quick little succinct deal. You're looking at a gentleman that basically got screwed, glued, and tattooed out of roughly $1 million for work that he did in the aftermath of Hurricane Rita over in the Lake Charles area. And long story short, because you're welcome to look at as many of the features as you would like, you can consider it a buffet, you can pick and choose. But one of the central features, and back when I first had Billy on as a guest, I had to admit to everybody that I really didn't have the integral knowledge to make too many statements at that point, and that's been several years ago. Since that time, I have become, I could have a PhD in the Billy Broussard scenario, and we have given you some incredible features. But what I want to focus in on today is in one of the early features, Judge Ritchie, who was the judge who basically oversaw the situation where he tried to get his money, and the attorney that he had, or at least one of them, and that being the lead attorney, is our present Attorney General, Jeff Landry. And Judge Ritchie was none too complimentary of Mr. Broussard's choice in attorneys. He even said, and we've got the transcript, you can see it on one of the features, he said, there's a television commercial out there, choose your attorney carefully. And at that time, Attorney General Landry was not the Attorney General then, and so Billy countered by saying, well, maybe the state should do the same. I mean, this man is running for Attorney General. And I said all that to say this, because as anybody who hasn't gone into hibernation or gone and lived in a cave would be aware, Attorney General Jeff Landry has been in the news quite a bit lately pertaining to alleged improprieties within his office, specifically allegations of sexual harassment. And that's going to lead me into today's feature, wherein there was one element that we didn't really focus, I don't even think it was brought up, to be honest with you, at least not on Sound Off, of an email that got sent. It was sent by a gentleman named Rusty Stutes. Now, those of you who are longtime subscribers of our blog will certainly be familiar with Mr. Stutes. He served as the attorney for the Gravity District, and a gentleman named Sam Gabb served as attorney for Calcasieu Parish Police jury. I'm going to read off, this is a very short email, but as many of you will have seen, we'll give you the link for the feature. Apparently, as Miss Gallo, she is the advocate reporter who has been delving into all of these sexual harassment allegations. And by the way, Jeff Landry had his office sue her, and I'm just going to tell you, Mr. Landry, you're stepping on some toes there. I don't really like seeing a state agency when a reporter wants to make a public records request and you take the lead initiative and sue that reporter. I can tell you darn well, if that happens with me, you'll see Miss Gallo have a very calm reaction compared to what you're going to get out of me. But at any rate, Jeff Landry sued her individually. Now, the advocate came to her rescue, naturally. I would have no such strong backing to come to me if Jeff Landry took that action with me. But that was a little bit of a side note. But I do want to emphasize the Attorney General has to sign off on contracts that deal with state agencies. We saw that with regard to Larry Bankston. Jeff Landry actively fought him, and I will commend him on that because I don't believe Larry Bankston, a convicted felon, has any business holding state contracts, and Mr. Landry shared that sentiment, and at least in one instance, the contractor board, he successfully got Mr. Bankston removed from being the attorney for that board. But what I'm going to reference to you today, during this email was sent on April the 24th of 2015, And this email actually is from, correct me if I'm wrong, it's from your wife.
Right.
There's no need to correct me, I am correct. This is an email from his wife to him, because you see, this man is very trusting. You know, he will have his wife routinely tend to any business affairs that he has when he's on the road, which he happened to be on this occasion. And so she comes across this email, and her response to him is, and I quote, and we're going to give you the link, because these are short emails. You ain't going to have to worry about reading a dissertation. It said, "I read your email from Rusty last night. What the heck is he talking about?" Okay? Now this is the email that was sent from Rusty to Billy. The gentleman sent it right beside me. Quote, now this was on April the 23rd at 2:42 p.m. It says, to Billy, "I assume you will be taking care of this and getting the check. Maybe you can sneak a smooch from him in the conference room." I'm sorry, I was wrong. This is not an email to Billy. This is an email to Kim Bienvenue. Am I correct?
No, I received the email also.
Oh, well, I'm sorry.
That's how I got it.
I'm sorry, he got it also. But
some sort of way I was in that email.
He was in this email chain.
That's how I got it.
Because I didn't want anybody to get the wrong impression when it says sneak a smooch from him. Mr. Stutes is referencing.
Yeah, see, look right here. I sent this email. I'm planning on being.
Okay, let's go back in time. Tell you what, we're gonna do a cut. Now, what I'm going to be reading for you is an email that was sent from his wife to Billy, because he is a trusting gentleman, and when he's out of town, as he was, he has no qualms about his wife handling emails just as if it were him. So, you know, he had no reason to be concerned in that regard. Nevertheless, his wife says, "I read your email from Rusty last night. What the heck is he talking about?" And we're giving you a link for it. And down below that, we're going to see an email from Billy Broussard to Kim Bienvenue and Rusty Stutes, as well as a Laura Landry. And this is on April the 23rd at 2:12 p.m., wherein Billy says, "I am planning on being in Lake Charles after lunch tomorrow. Can I come into your office so I can bring the cashier's check and get some sort of receipt?" So Billy's talking about bringing in a cashier's check and getting a receipt. And then there is a response from Mr. Stutes. And let me reiterate, Attorney General Jeff Landry has to sign off on contracts that involve the state of Louisiana, municipalities thereof. And here's Rusty, Mr. Stutes, on April the 23rd at 2:42, he sends this email, which Billy came in possession of because he was a part of the chain somehow.
Yeah.
And it says, quote, "I assume you will be taking care of this and getting the check." So he's referencing to Kim that I assume you'll be taking care of this and getting that check that Billy has referenced that he'll be bringing in. Now the next sentence is the key one, and it's the subject of the entire feature. And it says, quote, "Maybe you can sneak a smooch from him in the conference room." Now, we'll give you the link for the latest article that Ms. Gallo has written with regard to these sexual harassment allegations. But if you'll notice, as the onion is starting to be peeled, and she's having to do she's having to do some heavy lifting. They're not giving anything, okay? But gradually more and more is coming to light, and apparently this was going to be explained away as a joke. Well, I assume one would presume that's what this is.
Well,
and I'm going to let him kind of take over because his wife ends up with it. Luckily, you have a trusting wife, I assume. So I'm going to let you take over and say what you'd like to say.
Something just got my attention. Bottom line, I emailed it to this group of people. Rusty wrote, and so I would think all these people in this string
yes, got it.
would have gotten it.
Yeah.
If I remember right, Laura Landry is Judge Ritchie's secretary. So
Okay.
the judge's office received this email. So
Okay.
there's things that's been said in Calcasieu where, like the gift card program, the judges, were they aware, not aware of the gift card program? If this could be interpreted as sexual harassment. If I remember right, Laura Landry is the judge's secretary.
Ah, okay.
Something should have been brought up by the judge's office. So the judge's office received this email.
Okay.
So I'm not the only one that received this email at this time.
Well,
So when he would have wrote this, maybe you could sneak a smooch from him in the conference room. The judge also, his office received the email. So if they were aware of this, I'm wondering if anybody made any report to anyone that, hey, while Rusty Stutes is being paid with taxpayers' money to represent a government agency and this type of behavior is going on, someone mentioned, well, who would be the victim here? Was this supposed to be sent to Miss Kimby Avenue and then I received it? I know my wife and I am offended by this email.
I think I would be if I got it.
Right. So I get the email, then I got to explain to my wife because I just so happened to spend the night in Lake Charles that night. So she's like, okay, what's going on here?
Uh-huh.
So my wife's offended, I'm offended. Then, bottom line, I see now, this is just for the first time I realized that the judge's office would have gotten this. So I'm wondering why, you never hear nothing about this. And I know now even what's going on in the AG's office. Apparently whatever did happen, they were hired, and Pat McGee was coming back to the office. Not until after the advocate reported on it that it became,
make no mistake, without Andrea Gallo or someone in her place
right,
to delve into this, this would still be the case.
I don't know if this is, I don't know. I'm not an attorney and I'm not the attorney general, and I guess it might not be a good time to ask for an attorney general opinion to see if this is a sexual harassment case because his own office is dealing with this. But who in the state is responsible for overseeing these attorneys that are being paid for with taxpayer money? I know the AG's office approves their contracts. Also, I want to bring to attention, also Jeff was my attorney, so he may have a conflict of interest. He's also, if you see Kimby Avenue, is Jeff Landry's first cousin's wife. So that could be some conflict of interest also. But there's this type of behavior going on, maybe you can sneak a smooch from, and then even if that type of behavior, I mean, that's what's going on right now in the state. It's like, well...
And that's something that got put in writing.
Right, it's in writing. This is not hearsay.
Yeah, exactly. This is an email.
A deep investigation to find out who's saying what. And then someone said, well, maybe Kim would have had to say, well, I'm offended by it. At that point, reporting it to someone saying that her boss, treats her like this. She may or may not be offended. You got to remember, I have to meet with this lady just to say, was this a trap? I don't know. So Rusty Stutes and or maybe Miss Kimby Avenue, between the two of them, if they reach out to him and say, well, Kim, were you offended by this? And or was this something y'all were doing together? Rusty had already threatened me with jail time in the past in emails. I don't know what leg he was standing on, but in a situation like this, now I'm in their jurisdiction with their district attorney. Was this a way to try to set me up into some sort of,
Well, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe you mentioned to me that the contents of this email was actually read out in open court, was it not?
Oh, I forgot about that. I read this out during a debtor rule. That's one of the reasons I was bringing a check. But in regards to this matter, I was in the court and I actually was going, and normally they send you in a back room with the attorney to do a debtor rule. So I hired a gentleman to come with me that day. I said, look, I appreciate if you come with me. So when we got to the court, the judge is up there. I read this out to everybody in the courtroom laughed. There's one gentleman I would say that didn't laugh, and if anybody asks, I can tell you who that gentleman was later. But everybody just laughs. So I asked the judge, I said, but I brought this gentleman with me.
It wasn't a laughing matter for you.
No, it wasn't a laughing matter for me, and I was shocked. The other person, which I think was a law clerk, he stood on the side like, I can't believe. I think he was familiar with my case because I've seen him in other hearings where he was there, and he was just like in shock. I can't believe y'all all laughing at this. But everybody's laughing, and so I'm standing there just in shock. So I said, well, okay, well, Your Honor, then can I at least have my witness, this gentleman that could be a witness, come with me in this back room when y'all put us alone, just in case some sort of setup, you know, they say, I don't know if it's, you know, sexually or rudeness or I swung at somebody, I don't know. But if that's the type of behavior, I said, I'm gonna bring a witness with me, and the judge said, fine. But it was just laughed off. So maybe this is just, you know.
Well, and let me just say this, not to interrupt you, but if you want to accept the premise that apparently is being floated now as why this would have been okay in Attorney General Jeff Landry's office, that, oh, well, it was all just a joke. Perhaps this was just a joke. But what if his wife, who got this, because she's looking at his emails, as he readily has no qualms with her doing, and she suddenly sees this, and you see the reaction, what the heck is he talking about? What if she wasn't willing to accept this has got to be a joke? I mean, this is the kind of things that can cause serious damages to marriages. Now, luckily, you do have a trusting wife.
Right. No, I explained it. I hope to God she believed me. And I mean, the same thing was going on in the AG's office. Those women that they're talking about, maybe some of them are married. So if that was just the joking way of doing business, how many others? It sounds like it might have been others also that maybe didn't do a report, didn't. But the thing is, if you were the husband to one of those women that work in an office, you know,
where that sort of thing is going out.
This type of stuff is going on, or the office of the AG's office, you go, wait a minute, y'all causing divorces and everything else, and but it's okay, hey guys, it's just a joke. Is it? Is it not? If the top cop is okay with it, then who do we talk to about this? You know, and I would like to, if this is the Attorney General's jurisdiction, to be able to say, hey, you know, maybe he has this conflict of interest, but who looks over these matters in you know, like a situation like this? And I mean, it's not like I can go talk to the drainage district and the police jury, because
Rusty got the restraining order.
Put a restraining order
and
there.
Anybody's welcome to see the link for one of the features where that restraining order, without a vote, I want to emphasize, without a vote of either the drainage district or the Calcasieu Parish Police Jury, acting on his own, Rusty Stutes, and Sam Gabb to a lesser extent, though Sam Gabb was quick to put all the blame on Rusty Stutes. This is the attorney that did this.
Right.
So the cavalier, I guess the moral of all of this, the lesson to be learned here, is that this cavalier approach that, oh, I was just joking around, there can be a lot of collateral. In this case, fortunately, there wasn't. There was not collateral damage. But you're looking at a man, on top of everything else that he dealt with, from the drainage district, from Mr. Stutes, from Mr. Gabb, from the judge, and from Attorney General Jeff Landry, to the extent that he was your attorney, and apparently the judge was not very impressed. He made the commentary in open court, not in a status conference that's not on the record. This was an open court. So I'll let you wrap it up, but I'm glad you saved this, and I'm glad that you've been able to point out that this is not just something that just started happening 3 or 4 weeks ago.
Right. You can't say, oh, it's only at the Attorney General's office. But if individuals out there where the Attorney General's office may have jurisdiction and says, well, this is going on at your office, so how are you going to hold me accountable for something that y'all doing? I don't know. You know, I'm sure I've talked to legislators, said, hey, this next session is going to be a hot subject, you know, and I'm willing to even testify. So, you know, legislators say, hey, what went on with this? So I just, I believe this type of behavior. I mean, I went to Stutes' office before. And I mean, I have little girls, and I've seen young girls.
Very beautiful and nice.
Yeah, nice ladies walking through, and I think they call them runners there. They run back and forth to the courthouse.
Oh, I thought you were meaning your daughters.
Oh, yeah, my own daughters, yes, they're very beautiful.
Yes.
Well, but think about it. Your girl gets to a certain age, you're going to send her to college. She goes to be a runner for some attorney, and if this is how the attorney talks to women in the office.
Good point.
How would I feel as a father? You know, you say, oh, the little girl wasn't offended. Well, how about if you're the father to one of those little girls,
sure,
and the main attorney for the office says, hey, why don't you go in this
side room
and go do this or that, whatever that might be.
Yeah. And who's to say it's going to stop with a smooch, too?
Right. And on top of
if
that,
it's not a joke, and there's no guarantee some of this stuff is a joke.
right, and I mean, who other people going through it in and out of that office? I mean, if that's how he would joking with women, his women staff like that. I mean, anybody going in and out of the office. I mean, if you were married to a man, he was another attorney going to that office, and they go, hey, that's how they talk to the women over there. It's like there's a lot of ways of that could be disrespectful and quite frightening if your daughter worked there or you sending your husband or wife at that office. I don't know, but you tell me. I'm not an attorney, period. I'm not the attorney general, but I was offended. My wife was offended. I would think that this gentleman that's married to this woman would be offended. I'm sure. I mean, I know her husband. He's a cousin of mine, and I would think that he would be offended that some man talking to his wife like that. So I just hope that this next session, maybe they'll get to the bottom of a lot of this type of behavior going on in these offices. And I think if nothing else, in a matter like this, that the AG's office should remove Mr. Rusty Stutes from any other matters in the future, any handling of any matter in regards to me. So my request would be, you know what?
With an email like that, I think that definitely is in order.
I'll publicly ask you right now, Mr. Attorney General, it is your authority. You have the authority to remove gentlemen like this with this type of behavior. You asked me. You didn't remove Pat McGee, but maybe you understand that that is not just a joke. And you remove gentlemen like this from cases
that involve you,
involve me, because I would like to get the restraining order. Yeah, I'd like to get the restraining order removed.
Lifted. Should have been lifted a long time ago.
Because that's my constitutional right to ask for public records. And I'm not getting them, and it's not because it's the police jury or the drainage district that asked for it, but yet I can't go ask for it because, I got this attorney. So I think that he should no longer be being paid with taxpayers' money to keep this case ongoing. And I would like to clear my name, and with this type of behavior, though, you might see why he has the behavior that he has. So I appreciate your time and you're doing this sound off today. And if anybody has any questions, I won't mind answering any questions anybody might have.
That sounds great. Well, we want to thank everyone for tuning in. For those of you who want to see nothing but state police, this was a little bit of a detour. But for some of you who've probably said, boy, is state police all you do? I will still be concentrated heavily on state police because, believe me, we got some more material. I'm very slow, very methodical. I think you've been able to surmise that. But I did want to take this little detour because, quite frankly, I had forgotten about this email. We never brought it up in the early parts of our interviews, but I think in light of recent developments,
because you don't know what's right and wrong.
That's
it's
right.
Like, no, that's just regular, that's just business as usual.
Yeah, just joking as usual.
Yeah, just joking
you just said everybody in the
usual.
courtroom except one gentleman laughed.
Right. So you think, well, that's just the way they're gonna, the way you're gonna have to. You just got to deal with it. So maybe if we're no longer going to allow that to go on, then maybe this would be another example on why we shouldn't have that type of behavior in the workplace, especially when it's being paid for with taxpayers' money.
Sounds great. Well, thank you for coming on out, and that's what Sound Off Louisiana is for. And we look forward to bringing you another feature. I can tell you it'll probably be out within the next 3 to 4 days. Yes, it will be going back to state police. I think you'll find it quite intriguing. I won't say any more than that. And so this is Robert Burns. Once again, we want to welcome all of our new subscribers, and we thank all of our longtime subscribers for their dedication. This was one of those deals where it's an all video and only one little bitty bit of reading. So for those of you that prefer videos, you should be quite pleased. So we look forward. It's a week away from Good Friday. We're certainly going to have a feature before then, but that doesn't keep us from 8 days before the fact saying Happy Good Friday and Happy Easter to everyone. And we will be back with you in about 3 or 4 days. Thank you so much.